All right, so my camera keeps turning off. But like I've mentioned in all my videos, these are for me, not trying to sell anything. YouTube is a free place to keep these videos. So they're for me and just a handful of people that I work with. And a lot of things that I describe are exaggerated feels. So not everything is just gonna work across the board for everybody. I'm not breaking things down like, on the PGA Tour, this is what we see from the best players in the world. I mean, some of that, but also a lot of things I'm describing are, like I said, exaggerated feels to correct certain swing flaws. Like for example, my friend who I was working with a couple weeks ago, actually talked about some of this in my last video. He turns really well, but he never gets any lateral movement through the ball at all. And what you do see from the best players of the world is they might come back just an inch or two on the backswing, nice full coil, this triangle that your arms and your chest make, you know, that as when they turn off the ball, that stays connected. Unlike most amateurs, they're just using their arms. There's no chest, no coil, no power. As they're getting to the top, maybe about 80% of the way to the top, their pelvis is shifting back centered, more like where they started. And that first move down is initiated by your lead side. On your backswing, you're basically getting your weight into your back heel, and before you're even at the top, that weight is shifting to your front heel. So your leg can clear out of the way and you can get your hips to move down and through the ball. I think one of the best things is learning impact, learning where you want to be at impact, you know, hips cleared, head down, hands ahead of the ball. My heel isn't up off the ground. You know, I'm in a nice spot to compress the ball right there. And even just, you know, finding where you want to be. Let's see, if I wanted to get everything cleared, just find that position. You can even just kind of work backwards from impact. That's a really great thing. And just move so slow when learning different positions and different aspects of the golf swing. And I can never stress enough, I always have felt like gravity starts my downswing, which allows, you know, my lead side to start everything, and everything's getting forward and it's pulling. Again, I like to pull everything through. If you learn to use your lead side, rather than what most rookies do is they get way too much right hand in there and shoulders and over the top. So they don't turn their chest back, and then it's just over the top with the arms. Look familiar? No, you keep your arms very, very passive in the backswing. So it's your chest that's moving that triangle and the club and everything off the ball. At the top, you know, that breaks down a little bit. But as you basically, right as that triangle is breaking and you're getting to the top, your hips are already coming forward because your hips and your leg and your weight is transferring to that front heel. That is what's starting everything. You're not really using your arms and your wrist speed. Because your arms and wrists, you know, obviously that's a lot of potential energy and speed. You do use them, but everyone uses it too early. It's not, you don't use your arms or your hands or anything to start your downswing. That's your lower body's job, is to just pull everything and let momentum, that kind of gravity, do its thing, drops it right in the slot, and it's this parallel to the ground position or somewhere close to, where you're releasing. That's when your arms and your power come into play, is essentially from parallel to the ground to parallel to the ground. And you don't need to try to, after you hit the ball, like keep rotating through and like kind of like harder, because probably heard a lot about deceleration. So I like to kind of hit the ball, and that's kind of it. It's just whatever momentum the club has is what creates the follow through. Obviously, you're not going to just stop dead. That would require a tremendous amount of strength and could possibly even hurt you. But what a lot of people do, even especially like long drive guys talk about this a lot, is they try to stop at impact, which you're never going to do. What actually happens is, if you think about it, you stop your hands, the club just slings right through. That's kind of what the release is. Kind of. It also depends on club. You know, that's kind of more drivery. It depends on your grip, because for example, if you had like a really weak grip, someone like Jordan Spieth, Mo Norman had a weak grip, you can't really have a lot of flexion coming into the ball without, here, looking at one knuckle, weak grip. If I come through with a bunch of flexion, that face is aimed 30 yards out to the right. It's aimed dead right. That's why players like Jordan Spieth that have a weak grip, they're still leading with their hands a bit, but this shaft is going to be a little closer to straight up and down, versus someone like Dustin Johnson with a very strong grip. They're able to use a lot more of that lead flexion and drive through it. So your grip has a lot of effects on different things in your swing. People like to overlook their grip, but like at the top with, you know, a square back of your hand, that's great, assuming your grip is neutral. Having a different grip that's not a strong grip or a weak grip, that's not necessarily where you want to be at the top. So never overlook anything that seems small. Remember, golf's a game of opposites. So if you really don't know what you're doing and you're just like feeling your way through it, you're probably doing the exact opposite of what you actually should be doing. That's why everyone, you know, thinks the swing is starting, like trying to chop wood, as they say, use their upper body, or they're trying so hard to not come over the top, but they still do, and that's because they're not using their hips. Their hips and their arms are basically moving together, and they're trying to drop to the inside, and they probably get some of this move going on, straightening. A lot of people do that, maybe not to that exaggerated point, but that's why you really need to just let that lead side it starts it. That's where the power is. That's where the lag is, letting your lower body start everything, then it comes through. It's so easy. I'm about 155 pounds, just under 6 feet tall, and I can swing the club. My driver swing speed average is about 118. I can get about 125 going after it, and that's with not a lot of effort. I see guys that are 6.5 feet tall, over 200 pounds, all muscle. I outdrive them by 75 yards in the air every time. And it's just because they don't know the proper sequence, and they think that just their upper body brute strength is gonna do it. I mean, not only can they not keep the ball on the course, but when they do, it doesn't even go anywhere. It's like, it's not brute strength, it's speed and contact and proper angles. The big mistake is flipping. Everyone wants to add loft to their club for some reason. You're hitting an 8-iron. Doing that, you're essentially turning your 8-iron into a pitching wedge. No wonder you can't hit it far. Then you look at pros and they're turning their 8-iron into like a 6-iron. They're so far driving down through the ball. That's why they hit their 8-iron 175 yards. Never gonna do that, leaning back, spinning, hitting up on the ball, taking all the spin off. Like I've mentioned before, all that does is you'll have a little bit higher launch in the beginning, and then it just drops out of the sky. No spin, no penetrating flight, nothing. You'll see most good players especially the best wedge players on the planet and the ones that hit their wedges the furthest, it actually comes off lower initially and it rises from spin. Especially with your short clubs, your wedges, I've always really liked the feeling of just trying to almost hit them as low as I can. And it really just helps that, having that feeling of compression. Felt real nice. Because it was a DT solo and not one of those crappy range balls. Right in the middle. Yeah, just let your lower body start everything. Feel like gravity is starting everything. And honestly, one of the best things you can do is practice with your glove hand, your lead hand. That, see how the lower body just pulls the rest, pulls all this down through, back of your hand, your club face, match up. Control that, you can hit it lower. If I need to hold it open a little, closed a little. If I'm trying to like get it up in the air, I might be a little bit more right-handy if I'm really trying to like flip it over a tree or something. But as a right-hander, it's your dominant hand. Your right hand is adding some stability and some speed. It's really not that difficult, but so it's not like it's just totally limp and passive. But such a mistake is so many people they get all right hand into it and they have no control. They never even learn to use their lead side, which is the power side, the control side, the compression side. That's why you see a lot of good players. John Daly used to do this a lot. Just hit left-handed shots, or call it glove hand shots, lead hand shots. Just practice swings. I mean, I bet you I can swing almost as fast with just one hand, just the left hand. I don't really want to hurt myself though. But, if I hit my pitching wedge, it's a smooth pitching wedge, it goes about 130, 35-ish, smooth. Left-handed, I could probably hit it 120, 125. So the right hand, it definitely adds stability. It's a lot easier to hit the ball crisp with both hands. But I think just feeling right hand only, right hand dominant is one of the biggest mistakes a player can make, especially if they're serious and they really want to improve. If your goal is to break 80, shoot 75, once in your life or something, like, do whatever. It's not that hard, you just need some reps. But if you're actually serious and you want to be a player that shoots under par, wins tournaments, your lead hand is going to do that for you. Sticking with a trail hand isn't going to do much. Once you have the control, you can definitely fiddle around with more trail hand control. But if you're new to the game or you've only been playing for a little while and you really want to improve and you don't have lead hand control and feel, and you don't let your lower body start your downswing and create momentum for you, like, you're just really not going to improve sticking to right hand dominance. I mean, there are certain shots, like if I'm really trying to hook one, it's kind of both my hands working together. Or if I'm really trying to hit it high in the air, I feel a little bit more in my right hand to just let it release a smidge earlier. But you don't want to overdo it. Just because I'm trying to hit it high doesn't mean I'm trying to scoop it up in the air. You're still coming down through the ball. Really the difference is, normally if I was, my normal 9-iron, if I was somewhere in here, if I was trying to hit it high, I'd probably be more like normal high, still coming down through the ball. I just released a little bit earlier and I'm coming down through it, versus normal be a slightly later release for a little bit more of that, a little more flexion in that lead hand, a little bit more compression, just adding a touch of loft. And you'll be amazed how high the ball goes with like a wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron, coming down on it and taking a divot, leading with your hands and compressing it, it's going to put probably twice as much spin on the ball as you were previously putting on it, trying to swing, if you're swinging up with your short clubs. Too many people, honestly, I don't think anyone should use a driver for at least the first year of playing. Too many people like focus on drivers, or there's a lot of tips online for the driver swing, and the swing's technically the same, but the driver's the one club you're swinging up on, and it really doesn't help your game practicing driver all the time. I mean, it's just not good to practice with a driver. It's not a club that carries over into the rest of your bag. I would suggest, you know, like I got here today, I didn't bring my whole bag. This would be a good, just some clubs I wanted to use today. I got a 9, a 7, and a 4. I like to sit around hitting 4-irons all day. See, I've only hit the 9-iron so far. Let's try a 7. And be intentional. Be very intentional with your practice swings. It doesn't have to be, you know, exactly what you're gonna do, but have some reason, some purpose to your swing. You know, I might even practice swing a little long, kind of John Daly-like, just to loosen up, especially if it's the first hole or something. That's like one intentional thing, but something I see so many people do is just like, it's like, what is even the point of that? You're not practicing anything. That's not what you'd want to do in your swing. So even if you're just taking small little swings, one thing I like to do is, I had a short about this, kind of making a figure 8, goes out and in. It's an exaggerated feel, but sometimes just learning to go back and forth rhythmically. I notice a lot of people can't do that. Like, people will just be like, it's like, you can't, you know, just come back. And a great feel, this is an old Jack Nicklaus tip, if you're just doing these little swings, don't feel so much like you're coming up. You're coming up like, it's really more of like a rolling your feet in. It's just a feel. Or when you're practice swinging, I see a lot of people, they take practice swings and they're hitting every time. It's like, they're hitting way back here. Obviously, if that's where I hit with my ball, it would be incredibly fat. So I do the opposite. When I take practice swings, I try to like brush the grass. Always brush the grass up near my front foot, more towards like, you know, inside my front foot, kind of more like driver position up there. And that really gets you used to, you know, kind of, you can feel where the ground is, but it also gets you out in front of the ball and not just hanging back and practicing for failure. So it doesn't have to be anything exact, but even with your little practice swings, have some sort of intention in mind of why you're doing it. Nice. I can't see it as well with that. Titleist is the range ball. It's dead center. I don't think you can see it. It's in the kind of markings right in the middle. But it was just dead nut center. Here, use one of these range balls that leaves a mark. Working on a ton of things this winter. Basically took my entire golf swing apart and I've rebuilt it. Just really working on ingraining probably half a dozen different things right now. Ball striking's it got real sloppy for a minute because I was working on so many things, but it's coming back. See that one? Come on now. I know there's an angle that shows it. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Yep, there it was. It's right in the middle. Took a little chalk and drew a little chalk line instead of having to have an alignment stick or something all the time. That, you know, it's annoying trying to just, it's a little annoying when you got a ball and you got to like hit it over the alignment stick and then your alignment stick gets knocked out of position. So I just drew it on there with some chalk. Wipes right off if I wanted to or whatever. I used to do that a lot as a kid on the practice green. I asked Mark, the greenskeeper, first, but I would take my chalk line to the practice green and find a nice straight putt. And I don't know, 5-6 feet, I'd just make a nice straight line to one of the practice holes and just sit there all day practicing. Same exact spot again. Ball mark's just getting bigger. It's just, you can see it there. Work on your ball striking. I mean, there's obviously purity of technique, getting everything down, which is going to help with your consistency and your distance, but some of it is just your genetic makeup. Some people are naturally more gifted than others. Some people mentally have the drive to practice. And golf is honestly a game that takes some of that natural ability, but also just hundreds of thousands of reps. And you can be, you know, you can become okay with, you know, less than hundreds of thousands of reps. But if you're actually serious, and we're talking about, you know, playing better than scratch golf, because scratch golf, it's good. I mean, it's better than most golfers will ever play, but it's a long way from the pros. And a lot of it, not only is it practice, an intentional practice, you know, it's not just aimlessly hitting balls, it's very much doing the work, the slow work, the hitting balls, you know, 15 feet, checking your positions. You know, on the range sometimes I'll be there for a half hour and I only hit 3 or 4 golf balls. Getting more work done than the guy who just hit 2 baskets, you know, Mo Norman style, just ball, ball, ball. Just that machine gun fire doesn't help your golf game very much. What that does help, what the reps help, is simply your hand-eye coordination with the ball and being able to consistently strike it. All right, it felt a hair more toey than the rest. Still middle, I don't know if you can see it. Might have been just a touch heavy too, because how high it is on the face. I don't know why it's so hard to see on the camera. But I have very high expectations for myself. So when I say toey, heely, thin, it's usually like not far. It's still a decent shot. It's not way off. It's still going to be on the green. If I hit one that bad, where I would put up a bigger fuss about it, but if I'm just saying, oh, it's a little heely, a little toey, it's a 1/4 of an inch at the most, just a little bit. You get to a level where you really expect to hit it essentially in the exact same spot every time. You can see where my wear patterns are. All right there. Yeah, speaking of wear, I mean, this one's not the worst, but oh, you can see it at that angle, nice. Thinking about getting some new irons soon. I think I just want to get the newest version of the Titleist MBs, the 620. They look so sharp. I love that, just how clean they are. Essentially, this Titleist isn't there, and where I have this lead tape, all it says is Titleist, and there's no other markings. It's so slick. And besides that, it's essentially the exact same club design, except for there's a slightly less offset with the hosel. So it almost has zero offset. All right, yeah, we're at the 25-minute mark. I gotta keep them real short, or at least this short, so they'll actually load onto YouTube. All right, we'll keep grinding, keep practicing. Peace.